Hello, I'm 64 years of age this year, and I am more jacked and feel much fitter, much healthier than when I was in my 30s. In fact, some people tell me that I'm fitter or even more jacked than most 30-year-olds. However, this video is not about boasting, it's really to convey a very important message. Let me tell you a bit of my story, because this was not always the case. In fact, it wasn't the case until about 2 years ago, where everything changed for me. Let me take you through a bit of my story so far, and then you see when things changed. And then I will take you through what I actually did. And I promise you, if you listen to the end of this video, you'll be able to use exactly the same system I used and get healthy as well. So please stay on until the end of the video. Up to my 30s, I was fine. I probably had youth in my favor. I was not doing anything extraordinary. I kept activity up like every young person. And I never really had any major health problems. But when I reached my 40s, things changed dramatically. My visit to the doctor started to show early signs of metabolic diseases such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and pre-diabetes. But again, I introduced a few exercises which I saw people do normally. I joined the gym, I did some runs. In fact, I did even a 10K. And sometimes over the weekends, I'll go to the local park in the UK and kick about. So I did some swimming as well. And I thought this will do the job because this is what you are told to do. But it didn't help me really, or if it helped, it just slowed the decline. But the decline happened nonetheless. By the time I was in my 50s, it suddenly came to a head. I was fully diagnosed with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes, and was put on medication for all three of them. I did everything to maintain taking the medication. I started to increase my activities in the areas I've just mentioned: walking, running, swimming. I did some of these things until closer to when I was in my 60s. But really, it did not change the conditions. I still stayed on medication. In fact, over the period, my doctors increased the medications gradually. With every visit, they will say, well, look, we just need to know your medication a little bit to make sure things don't get out of hand. I was actually puzzled by why this should happen, because I had everything necessary to make sure I don't fall ill. I was moderately active, if not more active than most people. I did swimming, I did a bit of running, I did a lot of walking, but really nothing changed. And I was on the medication as well. When I reached 60, and the doctors told me they might have to consider increasing the medication again, I've had it. I just said, well, look, I'm going to review everything that I've been doing so far. Something is not working for me. Something is absolutely not addressing the issues, regardless of everything I've been doing. I came down after one visit. I sat down, I reviewed everything I've been doing, and it all seemed, by normal standards, as though I was doing everything that was required. In fact, the doctors would ask me, do you exercise? Yes, I would. My answer was always yes, I did. And that was the truth. It got to a point wherein I thought maybe I'm missing a trick. So after that last visit, around my 60th birthday, I sat down and looked at everything I've been doing. But then looking at it, I found one thing that didn't seem right. I mean, in every part of nature, things seem to work very well when two things are present. One, when there is a logical order of sequence of things, you don't just throw things at random. And secondly, when there is consistency. So what I did was, I sat down and made a list of all the things I've been doing. And I said, I'm not going to be doing them at random anymore. I'm going to create a system and I'm going to follow it for 30 days and then see what happens. So I wrote down the following. First of all, before I started to introduce activities, I decided I would stop any type of junk food, no matter how mild. I totally went purist. So I only ate whole natural foods. Anything that was processed, I took out of my diet. That includes oils, anything that was processed. If it wasn't natural, I would not have it. Then I stopped all processed drinks. I will only have water. I started doing that first. So in other words, I cleaned up the whole diet. That includes the foods and the drinks. And then I started doing the following. I'll go for walks in the morning for between 5 to 7,000 steps. And then I would just ensure that I did this daily. So I cleaned up all my diet and I started taking walks in the morning. I did this for the first 30 days. And I went back to the doctors and they were quite amazed. They said, well, look, seeing things have not worsened. In fact, they've started to improve. And I was buoyed by this because all I did were two things. One was to clean up 100% of my diet. I became very strict about this, no processed food at all. And I just started taking those walks. About 30 days, I started to notice a reversal of my conditions. Now, I wasn't cured, but the conditions basically the decline got arrested. In fact, the trajectory turned the opposite direction, according to my doctors, and I have the reports. I got encouraged by this, and I got back. I reviewed the first system that I constructed, wherein I cleaned up my food and started doing the works. I said, well, what else can I add to this? But then keep going, stack them in a logical order, and be consistent. Then I added the following. I started to add resistance training. Now, I didn't go to the gym. I used to go to the gym prior to this system that I'm telling you about. I used to go to the gym for over 30 years. But it was all random. I went there, threw weights about, lifted, sometimes ego lifting, and made friends. But it never did anything really. It probably helped a little bit, but it never reversed my conditions. So, to come back to the main point, I decided I'm going to introduce weight training. But I said I'm not going to go to the gym because that's never helped. Again, that's me challenging everything I've done the past 30 years. So I went onto Amazon. I ordered a pair of dumbbells. I ordered a stationary cycle and a bench. And that's it. They all arrived. And a week later, I set them up and I started using them. I still maintained eating 100% healthy and natural. I still maintained going for walks in the morning every day. It didn't matter whether it was weekend or not. I would get up, I'll have a coffee, I'll be fasted, then I'll go for my walks. That's quite important. I will not eat breakfast. I'll just get up, have a quick coffee, and then go for my walks. Now, when I bought my home gym equipment, I will basically do a bit of strength training for about 30 minutes with the coffee before I went for my walks. So I've introduced the strength training, but at home. I did that again for another 30 days, consistently. No weekends, no excuses, no business travel excuse. If I went to a business travel, I'll do body weight exercises, but when I come back, I'll continue. I did that for another 30 days, and I went back to my doctors, and it was amazing, because they told me that I've definitely started to see dramatic improvement, and that if this continued, they might have to revise my medication, either reduce it or take me off altogether. So I was absolutely buoyed by this. And then I came back again. I thought I've stumbled onto a secret sauce here, a winning formula. So I said again, so I'm going to keep everything that I've been doing so far. What do I need to add to this? What I added, of course, was to start utilizing my stationary cycle a lot more. So I added a bit more cardio onto that. So I was doing mostly the weight the previous 30 days. I had a stationary cycle, I never used it. So I started to use that as well. So I'll now do weight training and do a bit of cardio, all fasted, with the coffee, and then I'll continue for my work. And I did that, and I then decided I'm going to ramp it up a little bit. I was consuming quite a lot of health materials from YouTube and other places at that point in time. I knew these things, but I was looking for things to pick to add to my, what I consider to be a very good system so far, because it's been working for me. And I then realized that one more thing that was missing is the protein. Because by this time, by the 60th day of doing the system I've just explained to you, I'd lost quite a bit of fat. I could feel it. I hadn't measured myself. Previously, I was about 23% body fat. I didn't measure myself, but I looked much better than somebody at 23% body fat. So I decided to add protein. Then I added protein to my diet, and I didn't measure. People say to have 1 gram per 1 pound of body weight in protein. I didn't measure that, to be candid, but what I did was I put enough protein on my plate, about a third. I just eyeballed it. I made sure I had a third of my plate was always protein, and remember, the rest of the food was always pure whole foods, natural. So that was my plate: protein and natural foods, carbs and fats. Again, didn't measure. It just had to be natural. And I continued to do the previous system, plus I added the diet. And when I went to visit my doctors again, I was amazed. This time I didn't go to my GPs. I went to a private clinic because, quite frankly, I was so pleasantly surprised that I started to question whether my GPs were telling me the facts. I shouldn't have, but I did. So I went to a private health clinic, reasonably expensive, so I paid for them for a proper checkup, all biomarkers. I gave them my report from my GP, and they absolutely confirmed that I've reversed all my conditions, and that if I continued what I'm doing now, there's no reason why I should be considered ill anymore. And at that time also, I started to get a lot of compliments from, and this is, you're talking here about 90 days in. I started to get compliments from work and from people who knew me, from relatives. The common joke was, you are aging backwards. Not that I've stopped aging, but I was aging backwards. As you can imagine, that really gave me some boost. And I continued the exercise, but and the system that I've been using. The last time I went to my doctors, they totally confirmed that I have no metabolic conditions at all, and that I now have the metabolic age of somebody who is between around 40 to 48. I went to one place where they said I had a metabolic age of 48. I went somewhere else where they said I had 40. Now this is 20 years knocked off my age. Not only that I've cured myself, but I had the health span. My inside was somebody who was 20 years younger. More than 20 years younger, if you like. So this is what happened to me. And since then, I've shared this system with others, sometimes casually, sometimes when I notice their condition and they are not feeling well, and I call them into a corner, I share it with them. Several people have tried it, and it worked like magic. So this system did not only work for me, it works for everybody. Now, it kind of makes sense, right? So all you need is the right combination of the steps and in the right sequence, and you do them constantly and persistently and give them time to work. That's the only thing that's required. The reason why most exercise doesn't work is because they are out of order. For example, it will not benefit you much if you decide to eat a lot of protein, but then you are eating foods that are junk. It will not benefit you much if you did some exercise, but then you are drinking sugary drinks or alcohol. It will not help you much, probably, if you just did weight training by itself 100 and never did a bit of cardio. And it will not help you a lot if you ate too much in the mornings and you didn't do a bit of that. So the whole elements are very good for you anyway. And most people actually do these things. But the difference here is the sequence, number one pillar, in which I did them, and the fact that I persisted doing them. And I stacked the good things and better things on top of previously good things. But the starting position is to weed out all the bad habits, the vices, and then start with small amount of good habits and then stack them. This is absolutely the perfect system. And I've used this, other people have used it, and it works every time. So my invitation to you is, if you've got any condition and you are over 50, even if you're not over 50, but if you are over 50 particularly, because those are the people I'm addressing, I encourage you to try this system. Just Write everything I've explained and try it for 30 days. Do not quit. It will get some point wherein you think it might not be working, particularly the first 30 days. For some people, you might not notice anything unless if you go to a medical doctor and they notice the slight changes. To you, it will be imperceptible. But continue. Give it 3 months, give it 6 months. Sometimes even give it a year. But I can guarantee you, in the first 30 days, you've started to turn the corner. And in the next 30 days, your 60-day mark, you will have made a change. Almost a permanent change, a reversal. Try this and come back to me, because I'll be putting out videos, and comment whatever has worked for you. Or, better still, if you really wanted to implement this, you wanted to have guidance, you wanted to have accountability, go down at the bottom of this video. There's a link there. There is a form. Complete that form, and you come straight to me, and I'll contact you, and then we'll discuss your situation. I'll be able to adapt some of the things to suit your scenario, but not much, to be honest. And crucially, I'll work with you. I'll be your accountability coach, and in that scenario, the results are guaranteed. Because the biggest challenge is not the system itself, it is the order in which you do them, but crucially, more than anything else, is staying with it when you think you might not be working. Now, with a coach, you're almost likely to follow through. We all are like that. We are humans. We tend to do things far more when we're accountable to other people than we're accountable to ourselves. So I encourage you to go down this video. There is a link there. There is a form. Complete the form, and the form will come to me, and then we'll get in touch and see if you are at a position wherein we can help you. But I can almost guarantee you that this will help almost anybody. So I look forward to seeing your form completed, and take your health into your own hands.